what's going on, ballers? It's Preachy, and I'm joined by a very handsome baller. I hope to God he sat to my right. Who are you, pal?
It's Ghost, baby.
It's Ghosty. This is Ghosty. We're going to be talking about the Sith Assassin, one of the Inquisitor classes. Am I right?
It is.
That's right. It sounds sexy, and that is one handsome-looking chap. Ghosty, the Force Walker, the Riddick Legacy. Nice. Ooh, yeah, son. Nice. Definitely. So we always like to bring you every class at Preach Gaming. So we're going to be looking at the Sith Assassin today. This is Ghosty's class. Level 44. You're almost there, pal. Almost hitting that big level 50.
Mate. Home straight.
On the way home. Even with a daddy, he's still rolling that big stuff. So we're going to be talking exactly like we did with the Sith Juggernaut. We're going to be talking about choices that we make while we're leveling without knowing a guide, because none of us know the best talents. Even you, being a Supreme Baller, have no idea what the Sith Assassin talents are going to look like for leveling.
No.
So these are choices that you've made.
Correct.
And how you've gone into choosing those things, why you've chose them, and how the guys can pick up this sort of methodology of how also to pick their talents. If they can disagree, agree, it doesn't matter. This is what you've gone with and why you think is the best. We're going to talk about that and how you sorted out your Sith Assassin. That's hard to say, isn't it? Sith Assassin. Sith Assassin. So let's take a good see. Boom. So you've gone into the Decepticon tree.
Decepticon, baby.
Decepticon tree. So there's no reason to argue why you've chosen that one. Deception tree. So tell me about your first talents, pal. What have we gone into here? Why have you picked what we've picked?
Right, I picked Deception purely because Deception is being known as the burst DPS spec of the Assassin. You've got like your Darkness, which is obviously tanking, and Madness, which is a dot spec DPS tree. So I've just gone burst for leveling, obviously.
Well, obviously, because you want to nerf the mobs down, you want to beast them in the face, you want to pull up, pull out your junk, shove it in the face, and move on.
That's it. I want to be quick about it as well.
You want to be quick about it, wipe it on the curtains, and get out of there.
I don't want to dot them. I don't want to lube them up and shit.
No, no, no. We don't like dot classes while we're leveling, do we, ballers? We want to get in, get out, and job done.
Yeah, the quicker you kill a mob, the quicker you get your quest done.
Okay, so obviously you've had to put your 5 talent points in first to move on to your next tree and so on and so forth, similar as I did with my Juggernaut.
Yeah.
So more importantly, what we like to talk about is which talents did you skip and which talents did you pick up? Because that's always the choice we've got to make. We've got to miss something out to get going. So how have we done it, pal?
Okay, so the first spec, I've basically missed out Insulation, which is purely an armor increase for the charge that you're having on your lightsaber. That I don't need.
So you've just given me a quick rundown on how your class works. So similar, it's almost like a cross between a rogue and a shaman for anybody who's been playing World of Warcraft. You've got weapon imbues, these charges, which are actually something you almost enchant onto your weapon.
Yes.
That gives you a certain sort of buff. And Insulation's just buffing your armor, so that's a tanky sort of aspect. Could reduce downtime a little bit while you're leveling, I suppose, but you assume your other talents are much better for what you're trying to do. So let's go through them then.
So the first 3 I picked up were the first 2, sorry, was Dark Embrace, which is basically a force recovery when you're in stealth.
So force is your energy.
For
anybody doing WoW comparisons, which is obviously the way Star Wars works at the moment, we'd like it. We would certainly like it for Star Wars to stand its own 2 feet. But Dark Embrace is going to be regenerating your energy much faster.
Correct.
Which allows you to do more DPS when you come out of stealth. So you're instantly picking up that you want to be starting nearly every mob in stealth. Is that how you've been playing?
Stealth, yeah. Even if you're not going to just straight up attack one mob, or if you're going from one mob to the next, you always want to be in stealth when you're out of combat.
Get this buff
for this buff, yeah. That's it. As well as with the Deception tree, you're doing fast burst DPS. The more force you've got to throw at them, the higher your DPS is going to be.
Absolutely. It's like maintaining overkill on a rogue for anybody who ever played that in the past or watched the rogue guides. That's what you're going to do there. So that was your first 2 points.
That was the first 2. And the next 3 were in Duplicity, which basically is my direct damage attack. It could be from my Saber Strike or, well, now Volatilic Slash, but before Volatilic Slash. Anything like that will basically give me a buff, which will decrease my maul, which is the backstab ability, by 50%, and it will ignore 50% of my target's armor as well.
So that's a really nice little bursty attack. Now, how are you finding backstabbing and leveling? Because people obviously always hated kind of attacks that are attacking from behind. So was that a choice you had to make? Were you finding you could use your maul, your backstab ability a lot while you're leveling?
Thankfully, before we even started to look into the stuns and things like that, I know that you get Electrocute quite early on, which is a stun which you can DPS through.
Okay.
Kemval, your companion, is a tank. So he will keep aggro. Exactly.
Nice.
You're stuck behind him and you're just shivving the crap out of him.
Oh, well, I've been playing a tank, so I never had the option to attack from behind. But yeah, if you've got your tank... if your tank's holding aggro, you're definitely going to be able to backstab.
Exactly.
So I can see why you picked that up. Really nice. So that gave you your first 5.
Yeah.
And then you moved on into the next tree.
Next tree, which was which one did I pick first? I think I picked Recirculation first, which is purely the reduction of discharge. Which,
Childish laugh 101.
Nice. Which is Yeah, it's probably the main attack that you put in your rotate. Well, not spammable attack, but as soon as it's in there, you fire it off.
You want to keep that bad boy on cooldown.
Exactly, and with
what's it doing?
Charge. Well, let's look at this. Surging Charge is what I've got on my weapon as DPS, and Surging Charge, basically on auto attack, gives your attacks 25% chance to do extra internal damage to your target. And then when you discharge that with Surging Charge, it deals a set amount of damage. Obviously, that changes with your level.
Yeah.
So it's just a massive DPS hit.
So you've just got like a nice bursty, it's no dot, it's just a punch in the face pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you've got this big punch in the face every 12 seconds, smacking them in the chops. So that's obvious, yeah, nice keeping that on cooldown.
Yeah.
So you can now see why you're building up your abilities.
Yeah.
You definitely want to be keeping Discharge on cooldown now, you spec for it, you've got that reduced cooldown. So we can see how we're definitely using Discharge while we're DPSing.
Yeah.
Where did we go from there, pal?
From there, I went to my stealth level and movement
Now that's
speed.
a funny word, isn't it? Obfuscation.
Obfuscation. That's not real, I'm calling it.
It's not badass, that
That's
word.
But yeah, well, that's purely for stealth increase and movement speed. There's a lot of quests where, I mean, obviously it'd be different for play. I found it very useful for leveling purely because, say like you obviously go into your little certain like class areas and things like that, and it could be a long stretch of mobs before you get to your target area. Now in times, if like, you know, you've got to kill like 30 of these mobs and blah blah blah, once you've killed those mobs, for me, just to speed the leveling process, I'd stealth and I'd just go to the end of, I wouldn't bother killing mobs that I didn't have to kill.
Absolutely. I mean, on the other side of that as well, for what I pick up from there, while you're leveling, is often you're running into mobs higher level than yourself. So, and you're obviously going into stealth, as we saw from picking up your old talent there, which was your Dark Embrace. You're going into stealth every time to get into a mob, so movement speed means you get into your mobs faster. As we've always said throughout our videos, the faster you get to the mobs, the more damage you're doing any day of the week. And if you're going past higher level mobs, increasing your stealth level, less chance of getting slapped on the head while you're walking past, which is a nightmare for any stealth class ever. So really nice leveling talent that, I think. So. Now I noticed you picked up 7 talents in this tree. Now before you picked up those 7, did you go into the next level and come back?
Yes, I did. I only picked this up later on in it, purely from instance running, but we'll cover it on the way up anyway.
Okay.
Avoidance basically lowers the cooldown of Jolt, which is your interrupt.
Okay, nice.
Obviously that's very useful to have. An Unbreakable Will, which is obviously your trinket. You break from movement impairing effects. So that, I mean, like we discussed before, literally 75% of these mobs will cast.
Yes, definitely. A lot of casting mobs in Star Wars, a lot of casting mobs.
So that's obviously very useful to have in leveling, endgame, PvP and PvE. So that's why I picked that up. And obviously Unbreakable Will, if you, like, for example, if you're fighting from our Sith side, if you find a Jedi mob, they will knock you back with a slowed effect.
Yep, they've found that as a tank constantly. Yeah, absolutely.
So you'd fire that off and you get right back into the melee.
Nice, I like it. I like it. I love talents that increase in interrupts, and I always like to look for players who are picking up increased interrupts, because hopefully that means they're using it. We always say you're not just a DPS class, you're not just a tank class. You should be doing interrupts if you can do. Getting that cooldown down is really nice. I'd love to have that on my tank actually.
The next tree, the first thing I picked up was Surging Charge, which is
was a new weapon imbue.
A weapon enchant, yeah. This is just basically a flat out DPS enchant.
Yep, so you're getting that flat bursty damage, 25% chance. Every 1.5 seconds, so it's regular.
Yep, and that obviously.
And the discharge was nice as well.
And the discharge is just a massive amount of DPS on it as well, yeah.
So what's that bro fist? I see a bro fist.
Of course you see a bro fist. That's the only reason I picked it. It's probably the shittest
Didn't even read it. No, saw a bro fist.
A massive fist.
2 points I'm in.
Hit the screen, boom.
What does our bro fist give us?
Okay, basically your main attack, Thrash and Volatilic Slash, will stack up, where am I going now? The reduction of your shock by 25%, which obviously goes up to 50%.
Yeah.
And shock is a very, very useful thing to have. Not only is it a DPS ability, but if it's, I don't know.
Is shock different to discharge?
Yes. Shock, basically you can do from a slight range as well.
Okay.
There it is. Like, it'll shock the target, but if the target is weaker than you, it stuns them. You know, if it's not an elite mob, like a silver or a gold, it will stun them as well, which is amazing because obviously you can get behind, you can maul them.
Yep, definitely.
That's why I've picked that. So it's the reduction in your shock, which I'll show you as well why that's also good. And shock really comes into your rotation at later levels, which we'll discuss as we get further up the tree.
So 50% reduction is more energy overall. You're getting more DPS out, so it's a standard ability we want to pick up.
Correct. Now, Darkswell, we talked about this.
Yeah, this ability pisses me off, I've got to be honest.
It's purely because it's badly worded. Darkswell, basically, if you're in... It says that you can use your blackout ability out of stealth. Now, blackout in stealth, all it will do is increase your stealth
Which
level.
is fine. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
That makes you very undetectable. No
Correct.
issue with that. What I could not work out, what as we were talking about earlier, is what good. I mean, if we just mouse over a little bit here, let's read this again. Is it this one here?
Down. There you go.
Dark Swell. Blackout can now be used out of stealth mode. Point number 1. Let's read it again. There it is. Increase your stealth level by 15. I cannot understand what use it is to have that ability. I know that it's the wording because we got to the end result eventually.
Yeah.
Why they would include the wording of increasing your stealth level while out of stealth. Correct. That baffles me completely. But go on. I understand what they actually tried to get at afterwards.
Yeah. So basically, you've got, because judging from it is a offshoot of the Dark Embrace of a later tree, you will basically get force regeneration out of stealth for 6 seconds.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. It doesn't tell you that. The other thing that it'll tell you that is because it bridges from Dark Embrace. So it's basically like, obviously we keep referring to WoW, but it's adrenaline rush basically.
Yeah.
And that is very, very spammable, by the way.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, there's like, I think...
What's the cooldown on blackout? 45 seconds. Hey, not bad at all.
That's
not bad
right. I mean,
at
it's
all.
only 6 seconds, but you look at it like this, there's a lot of things that you can do in 6 seconds.
Oh, I could name a few myself, my friend.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is
why I
basically,
dropped
it's a
that
nice big DPS energy regeneration.
Correct.
The blackout wording is, for me, it's pointless. It could just do with being cutting.
Yeah.
And just being gives you Dark Embrace out of combat. That's all I should read. But it is definitely a nice big force regenerator, so you can spam a lot of abilities, especially if you've got sort of trinkets at the ready and all that.
I think it's badly worded, but I think it just makes it easier, the fact that it's the same command that will do 2 separate things in and out of stealth.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. The other thing is Deceptive Power, which increases your force total by 10. That's a given. That's a given.
That's a given. There's nothing to talk about there. It's just more energy. Happy days.
Okay, next tier.
So you went up again, finally.
Static Cling I skipped because it is purely a PvP talent.
A force slow, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that's just a slow.
It's just
a slow,
yeah. It reduces the cooldown and increases the duration. That's all that
boring
does.
for us PvE heroes.
Correct.
That's not what we want in Preacher's house. Or Ghosty's house, for that matter. No. So what else did you skip there? What's that there? Entropic Field.
This is just reduction of AoE damage by 15 up to 30%.
So something you might want to take for a specific boss later in the game. But while leveling, you're not really going to be hitting a lot of AoE damage. No, not at all. But that is something to be watching for. You want to keep a peeper open on that one. If we come up against a boss, let's say, can't be interrupted, you might not want the reduced cooldown on Jolt, but it does tons of AoE damage. You might want to go and swap in. 30% is massive. Yeah, it really is a lot.
So that's something to look to. Okay, Saber Conduit. Your Surging Charge has 100% chance to restore 10 force when it deals damage to an enemy. That's
okay, yeah, so that just means you've definitely got to keep that on cooldown, because over the course of a long fight, as you well know, ballers, if you're using stuff that it gives you more force or energy back, you want to be using that on cooldown, because every time you're missing that, you're losing force. That's a loss of DPS, and that's a fail.
That's a fail.
That's a stabbing.
That is a stabbing.
That is a stabbing. So not using Surging Charge is now a stabbing.
It is a stabbing.
Okay.
Better way, mate, with an assassin. Stabbing.
And you picked up 2 in what appears to be a cloud. Fade. Lowers the cooldown of Blackout, which again we've said is basically our DPS cooldown.
Yeah, so that would be on a minute, but now it's 45 seconds. And Force Cloak.
What's Force Cloak, pal?
Force Cloak, my friend.
Force Shroud.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Force Cloak is Vanish. It's basically, obviously, an in-combat stealth.
Oh, okay. And that, so can you intermix that? Is this what I'm picking up here? It's similar to the way, I shouldn't keep doing these WoW references, but a Mutilate Rogue will use Vanish to gain their energy buff. Yeah, to get another energy buff. So is that what we're mixing in here as well?
We would do
that.
In
a boss fight, we're talking boss fights. This is not for leveling, more for boss fights, yeah?
We would do that, but also the fact that you wouldn't have to do it as much, because even though it is only 6 seconds, or 80 seconds, sorry, you've got Blackout every 45 seconds.
Yeah, you want to be mixing those in together.
Correct.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a DPS increase, regardless of what anybody reads there. It's a nice double whammy of DPS increase. That's a 2-for-1.
It's a twofer.
It's a twofer.
It's a nice twofer.
So we then got further on, and now you're getting into the sort of talents I can't get yet. Thanks very much.
Loser. Okay.
Resourcefulness. Oh no, we're going to start with that. Let's start with that.
Let's do it. Reduces the force cost of Lacerate by 10 and reduces the cooldown of Overcharge Saber by 30 seconds.
Okay, so these are 2 new abilities I've ever heard of.
I've not got Overcharge Saber yet. I think that's going to be a later on talent. But reduces the cost of Lacerate by 10. Lacerate is a spammable AoE attack.
Oh, nice.
Yep, which is a circular ability.
So did you start picking this up for... Did you start running into a lot of AoE packs where you thought that is going to be really good now?
Yeah, trash packs especially, like, you know, like just random... Where am I going again? Sorry.
You're on resourcefulness.
Reversal, yeah. So yeah, trash packs. You obviously you pick up average 4 packs in 4 mobs in a pack.
Generally, while you're leveling out in the field.
So you could DPS them, but usually what I found with Chem as well, Chem will take all of the aggro. So if I go into the middle of them, if it's only if it's low HP mobs, I wouldn't waste my energy doing that because I could quite easily take them down with Volatilic Slash quicker.
Yeah.
But if it's low HP, I'll just go in to finish it quickly and spam Lacerate.
Okay, I like that.
Takes them down.
I wonder why they called it Lacerate, because Lacerate always indicates a dot effect. Does it carry a dot effect?
No.
Oh. Well, that's enough said. Static charges.
Static charges.
So this is a long tree. Look at that, guys. I mean, I've just noticed you've got a 3-tier chain tree there. So what's the penultimate? What's the happy day? What do we pick up for finally specking into all that?
Check it, mate. When your surging charge deals damage, you have a 100% chance to build a static charge, increasing the damage dealt by your surging charge by 6%.
So you've got a 30% buff on that eventually.
Yes. This is I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry, surging charge. Yeah, which is this. Your buff. Basically, my discharge. It will stack up to 5 times.
Yeah.
And then it'll do it by 30%. It'll increase my DPS on discharge by 30%.
Yeah. So again, are you watching now for that to stack 5 times before you hit discharge, or are you just firing it off when you can?
If it's 4 or 5, it depends what other buffs I've got in my rotation, basically. Yeah. So
we've missed one there.
Sorry, my bad.
Low slash.
This is very good. It's basically, I know we keep doing the WoW reference, but it's easier to relate to. It's a gouge.
Okay, so it's an incapacitate.
Yeah.
Oh, it says it there, incapacitate. Okay,
exactly. So yeah.
So you got another interrupt, so you can lock someone down like a mofo.
Exactly.
Yeah?
So basically, you can use this in so many different applications. You can use it to interrupts. If you've got if you got your duplicity buff up, where you increase the damage of Maul and reduce its cost, you could use a low slash, get behind them, and then use it, basically.
Nice.
It's costing you hardly.
Can you use that on champion level mobs? Because what I'm finding is some things work on sort of normal to silver, then they don't always work on gold, and then they certainly almost never work on a champion level.
What you'll notice is, on mobs of higher levels, sometimes you'll see it, if I just get rid of this screen a second, you'll see around here, the mobs buffs, one of them will be immunity to movement impairing effects and stuff like that. If it's got that, obviously you can't use it. Some of them won't do.
Okay.
Now this goes up to champion level mobs as well, so you can interrupt those, even like really big mobs.
Yeah.
You can still use your low slash as an interrupt if you're electrocute or anything on cooldown.
Beautiful.
So that's really good to use.
And does some nice damage as well there.
Yeah. So I'd use that.
So you're definitely using that while leveling.
Definitely, yeah. I'd use that primarily as just like an interrupt. What also you can use with that, which is a really good way of mixing it up, is your kick, and let me pronounce this right, it's Tumult. Tumult. Your opponent...
Kick's the target. Why have they not called it kick? Wow, look at the damage of that bad boy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Only usable on incapacitated target.
Yes.
Oh, I've got something similar to this on my Juggernaut called Pommel Strike, yeah.
So basically you'd low slash them to interrupt it perhaps, and then you'd use that in combination.
Yeah.
That really hurts.
Have you bound them somewhere similar then, so you can get a nice rhythm off? Or because am I right in thinking that you can't use that in PvP?
I don't know, because I've not PvP'd with it yet. I couldn't say. I mean, can you use Pummel in PvP?
No, you can't. Now, this is something I've noticed. I know we're going slightly off topic here, but I've got an ability that is almost exactly the same as Tumult, called Pommel Strike, and it hits as hard as that. As you can see, the normal talents that you've got here, they hit for about 592, 600, okay? Tumult hits for 1500. Yeah. So hard, it hits like a truck, but you can't use them in PvP.
Yeah.
So they're sort of unusual extra bindings, really. They're sort of cluttered the spell bar.
Specify that as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll find that won't work in PvP, but it works in PvE, and that's what's important, because you get this big, heavy-handed smash in the face, which is always nice while you're leveling, because it's not a long cooldown. They're probably similar to mine.
It's 45 seconds. It's
exactly.
Per pack,
But it hits so hard.
Yeah, on normal packs, like not champion level mobs, just regular mobs, if I get a stun with them with my shock or anything like that, I will immediately tumult them because it'll kill them straight away.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get rid of it, so it's on cooldown.
Log it out. Get a grip on yourself. God damn you, EA.
So yeah, that's very, very useful to have in all sort of like situations.
And then you moved up into... I noticed you've only got one choice here. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's because of all the variation midfield.
Yeah.
But this is basically, it increases the critical strike damage of my discharge.
Is that a critical damage buff? It's not more crit chance.
Not more
it's a
crit
critical
chance,
damage
it's a critical
buff.
damage buff.
Yeah, okay.
Of both shock and discharge.
Which you're using all the time anyway.
Yeah,
it's a flat
every
DPS
time.
buff.
Yeah.
Enough said on that one. What was our big final one? Voltaic slash.
This is amazing. Now this is what I was saying about shock. Basically, we've got a buff further down, which, if I'm right, is the Bro Fist.
Nice.
There we go. Yeah, reduces the cost of
Bro
shock.
Fist just keeps on giving.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It reduces the cost of shock by 25%, stacks up to 2 times, so that's a 50% reduction. Now this, Volatilic Slash, each time you use this ability, the damage dealt by your next shock is increased by 15%, so that's a 30% damage increase, a 50% reduction of shock. So if you're a front-facing mob or something like that, you'd hit that twice and you'd fire a shock. But it's costing you next to nothing and it's doing a lot.
Yeah, that's really buffing itself up, isn't it?
So that's better, and it's got a pretty cool ability, pretty cool animation as well, you know. So
that's really good. So the Decepticon tree, I suppose we should call it the Deception tree. How have you leveled with this build from the start? From this tree? Have you switched it around at all?
I've not respec once.
And are you happy with it?
I'm very happy with it.
Would you recommend it?
For leveling, definitely. The burst DPS is massive. The downtime's minimal. Obviously, with this new regeneration that they put in Star Wars, obviously we don't drink or anything like that. It's very minimal that I actually use that ability now.
Really?
Very minimal, especially with Kem taking the damage, and Val I've put a lot of investment into his gear as well. It's only recently, within like the last 2 levels or something, that I've stopped using Val as my tank, purely because the damage output that I put out, it makes sense for me to take the
You're out aggroing him?
Yes.
Right, okay.
I'm out aggroing him, and I've got a new companion that will basically just heal me.
Yeah, we all get a healing companion. I see. Okay, so you finished that. That's your leveling tree.
Yes.
You obviously now have got the ability to spec into other trees. Now I see you put something to darkness, which is the tank tree. Now what happened there, pal?
Now just at the bottom, it's basically increasing the damage of my main attack by 6%. Flat.
Oh, it's a flat damage buff. Yeah, nothing said.
That's what I've increased there, and now I've not quite decided what I'm going to do after I've spent the next 3 points, which I'm going to put into explosive strikes, which is going to be a buff. Yeah.
With force attacks. Now, what force attacks have you got?
Force attacks, it could be your shock, your force lightning, electrocute, anything sort of like that. Obviously, the madness trees are dot spec, which I'm kind of guessing will be for boss mobs, raid and stuff.
You think
like that?
I mean, we've seen Genji has tried out the madness spec.
Yeah, Genji, who's methodical in game, has recently changed to madness and has said it's very fun to play, and he can still drop trash packs quite as easily with deception.
Right, okay.
Now, I don't know because I've not tried it, but I can't see it being as suitable. I mean, Genji's obviously very experienced and he's probably found every ins and outs of it, and he's obviously tried the tanking tree as well.
Yeah.
But for me, as leveling, deception is by far the way to go.
I mean, it's worth noting there that Genji is 5 levels higher than me and was playing his tank spec and couldn't pull aggro off my tank. There's no talent for goodness.
No, there isn't. There is a talent for goodness, it just involves cancelling your account.
Well, there you go, guys. That's what we recommend for the Sith Assassin, the leveling tree. Deception tree definitely seems to be the best. Bit of burst damage, not waiting for damage to kick in. A lot of survivability, a lot of really short cooldowns for DPS, guys. That's Preacher Ghost. We're going to take a break now, and we'll see you during the week, guys.
I'm just going to give you a big lacerate to finish, mate. Check me.
Woo! Peace, ballers. Peace.